So I hope everybody should be able to hear us now.
Yes.
Yes.
Perfect. Very good. So shall I start or?
No, I introduce yourself. I introduce yourself, Timothy. So hello everyone. Thanks for joining today. It's our last day. I hope you have enjoyed all the session during this long week. So today we have Timothy Irso. He will introduce himself in a minute. And this is the second part of the exploitation resource session that we have with Simona on Tuesday. So I hope you enjoy the session. Thank you, Timothy.
Thank you very much. Thank you guys for having me. Like already said, this is the second part. So you already heard Simona talking more about the research side and exploitation and commercialization of that part. Today I'm gonna go more into the business side. So what I'm gonna do is give you an overview, what I think is important to build up spin-off or build up a company, also exploit and commercialize your research results from the university. So that's what I'm going to do today. Just a brief introduction. Who am I? I'm Timothy Earnshaw. I'm head of the consulting coaching team at PWCon. What do I normally do in my daily work? So basically, what I help is help startups, spin-offs to form their technology ideas and get them investor ready. So always one perspective is obviously how to get money, so maybe subsidies, maybe customers, or maybe investment, and I help them along the way. Today, like I said, it's about an hour. I'll probably talk around 45 to 50 minutes. And also want to give you some time for questions. So if you have any questions, feel free to write them in the chat at any time. So I can see and answer them. If you want my contact details, you can find below. So whenever you say, okay, there's something unclear, I didn't understand that, feel free to contact me also after this session. And yeah, so let's start. So to start off with a topic which is quite tough, but I think it's still very relevant to see also because the exploitation and commercialization is one of the areas, if you don't do it right as well, it's a high possibility that your venture or startup fails. So I've got a study here from CB Insights who looked at startups post-mortem, so startups which died and the reasons behind that. And one of the reasons you see here, the first one is the highest one with nearly 42% is no market need. And you have, okay, they run out of cash, not the right team, out-competited pricing, and then you have a few which aren't that many for marketing. Okay, that's only 14%. But what's really important and what I want to really give you as an insight today is that if you don't have a market need, it will be difficult to build up a business. So from the beginning on, where you think of commercializing or exploiting your idea, it's really important to check who's the customer. Is the customer prepared to pay money for your solution? And that's a little bit, I'm going to show you a few tools today, maybe how to do it. So how to check this, and yeah, so I hope this will, so that if you decide to commercialize your idea, you won't be one of those who have no market need. So in my opinion, what do you need to get from the idea to the business stage? This is a model we actually developed as PWCon, where we say, okay, once you're at the idea stage, which steps do you have to do in order to be able to think about if you have a business idea or not? So sometimes we start somewhere with the summary. You say, okay, you have to summarize summarize your results somehow at the end. but you really have to describe what's your product, what's the problem, who's the customer, what's the customer need, what is the market you're going to address, or what's the addressable market, which competitors does your solution have, what's your unique selling proposition. So what makes you unique? Why should people buy you and not maybe competitors? Who's the management team behind the idea? What's the market entry and marketing strategy? This is something we'll touch a little bit more later on. What's the business organization? What's the planning and realization? So how do you want to realize the whole idea? What are the next milestones? What are the next steps? Financial planning, how much money will you need to make the idea real? And maybe to finish off with also opportunities and risks, saying, okay, what are the opportunities of my idea? What are the risks? Or something like a call to action could also be the last step. So for me, those actually are the sufficient steps from getting from the idea phase to the business phase if you really think those things through. So some of you maybe also a good tool if you start working with say looking if you want to exploit and commercialize your idea is, for example, working with the business model canvas. Probably most of you know it, which has where you can say, oh, who's the customer, what's the revenue, to get an overview. I think this model here goes a little bit further. So this is more a business plan handbook, which we wrote here, saying, okay, what do you really have to do and which topics do you have to address? Also, if you want to address different stakeholders. So maybe you want to write a pitch deck, which is a presentation for investors, or you want to do the same for potential customers. And then mostly you have to cover somehow those topics. There's a quite famous paper also from Salman stating how to write a good business plan, which I think is also quite a good summary. So for example, there also he says that your business plan should be understandable for non-experts, and this is also something we actually absolutely agree with, because if we can now go in the problem and product space in a second, everybody should understand your idea. So because this is also nowadays in the startup space, you often have people talking about the elevator pitch, which is a pitch during the elevator, and basically that means you should be able to explain your technology idea to someone who's not an expert in the elevator, that after the elevator ride he's interested and says, okay, let's keep in touch. So that's an important point. It should be consistent and concise. So you should have a storyline, also with no breaks in it. So it should be well thought through from the product. Obviously, depending what your product is, this depends who your customers is. This depends on who your market is a little bit. It's an iterative process. So this is something I also want to tell you maybe a little bit more later on as well. So also exploiting your idea, you will learn things along the way all the time. So it's not just you think, okay, it's going to be like this. I think I can sell my technology or my product to certain people. You always learn along the way. So you often build it up on assumptions, and then you try to test if these assumptions are true. And you should really try to do that as early as possible with your technology idea or with your research to see if there's a market, so that you don't fail. So you don't develop a product and there's no market for it. So this is very important. And it should also, I always say, if you write a whole business plan, at some point you probably have to do that. Also for proposals for the European Commission, you need something like a business plan. It shouldn't be longer than 20 to 25 pages. This is enough. And yeah, it shouldn't be based on hype. It should be based on factual statements and facts, which is always important. So I think these are the most important aspect of how to write a business idea down the first time you do it, or how to write a business plan. So in order to build a business or business model, your business has to, according again to Salman, to his paper, it has to answer those 9 questions. So you really should, from the beginning on, think about who's the ventures customer, How does the customer make decisions about buying this product? To what degree is the product and service a compelling purchase for the customer? How shall the product be priced? How will you reach the identified customer segments? How much does it cost in time and in resources to acquire a customer? How much does it cost to produce and deliver the product or service? How much does it cost to support a customer? How easy is it to retain a customer? So those are all very important points. And like you see, it's also, this is now the business side. It's also, again, very focused on the customer. So this is always the customer. You should always try to have a customer-centric approach. And I'm going to go into a few questions in detail during my presentation. So to start off with, most of you probably have know-how. You maybe also have developed the technology, but probably you're not sure yet how your product will look like in the end and on which market or on which application you're going to sell your product. This is a tool which I think is very useful of trying to find out which potential markets could be and what potential products could be to enter the market. So this is the technology road mapping approach, where you say, okay, you have know-how, internal, maybe also external know-how in innovation project A. And this know-how is based on two technologies, for example. So you have a technology 1 and a technology 2. And you obviously can use the mixture of both technologies to build one product, or you could use one technology to build a other product. And then obviously the interesting thing is to see which should be your first market application. So where can you go on the customer market and sell your product? So this is very important, again, because for the market entry, you have to find an application where you bring added value to a customer. And you should mostly always try to find also innovative companies or who are more open to innovation and where you can sell your product better. To find a product market fit. So what you would try to do is to say, okay, I have a product, I'll try to find a market, and I'll find a market application for it. And in this market, somebody is prepared to pay for my product. So this would be something like a product market fit. Maybe just to make an example, to maybe just say, okay, what's a technology? What is a product? We could say, for example, a technology could be water. I know water isn't a technology, but just to make a simple example, you could say technology is a water, but we can do quite much with water if we would have this technology. And water would only be a product if we put it in a bottle, label it, and then try to sell it on different markets. So there's a little bit idea, and I think especially in the early phase, if you start your exploitation and commercialization plan, you really have to think which know-how do you have, so which technology know-how do you have, and then which products you can put this in order to maybe make your first market application. So another example could be maybe you building a AI solution for autonomous driving. So maybe it then makes sense to go over the logistics market first, to put it in logistics, robotics, to demonstrate that the AI is really working and that it's safe, and then go to the cars, because in the logistics, for example, the entry barriers wouldn't be so high as for autonomous driving, and the market is maybe already more mature. So this just, again, could be an example where you say, okay, although I wanted to, in our research, and we always wanted to go on a different market, but for now there may be a bit better application to find where people are more interested in using our solution, and you are able to get direct market feedback and also make the first revenue. So this is maybe an important point here as well. So I think that's why I say that's an important point. Like I said before, if I read business plans, which I do quite often, somehow I often read on the left-hand side. So is my product, it's the outcome of my development activity. So somebody worked in the lab, somebody developed something and just describes what he developed and how good it is. And maybe it's a technical innovation. So he says, okay, so far the technique has been like, the technology has been like this. Now my technology enhances this, makes it better, etc. and sometimes you just describe and present it quite nicely, which is good. But what is important for you to know, this is not enough. So it's good. You should describe which problems do you solve with your technology, although not go into too much technology detail at the beginning, because like I said, it should be understandable for non-experts. But you should describe what's the problem you are solving, and why should you describe the problem you are solving? Because my product is something my client buys in order to satisfy their needs. And by buying the product, a potential customer would expect a higher value than the price he's paying. So you always have to focus on that your product actually brings value to the customer. So this is very, very important point, because if you won't bring any value to the customer, it hasn't got a better quality. You don't save time, etc. It will be difficult to sell your product. So you should always try to find out what value does your product or your technology actually bring to the customer. And for this, it makes it far easier also to then build an exploitation and commercialization plan later on. Also, you should differentiate between 3 parts. So on the one hand side, we have a core product. This is probably your core technology you are selling, or like we said, like we saw in the technology road mapping, the product you advise to sell on a certain market application. Also, what you have to think about in the early phase is that if there are additional services you like to offer for this. So and additional services could enhance the core product, so it could make the core product more easier to use, or it could just enable the use of the product. So sometimes you need services to enable the use. So this would be additional services, which you have to think which of them are you going to offer in the early phase. One hint, sometimes as a startup, you don't have to do everything by yourself. Sometimes there are external partners who also can help you to offer services, because if you're 2, 3, 4 researchers and just starting to exploit and commercialize your idea, sometimes there's also a good strategic fit to other partners. As a last step, you also have to think about the process of delivery. So how can you deliver the core product and the additional services to the customer? But more to that later on as well in the marketing plan. So to focus this up, so this was basically my product approach, a little bit just giving you a little bit insight what's important with the product, how should you write down the product, or if you have to present to a potential customer the product, how should you present it? So it's also fun for, if we say afterwards in sales and commercialization, you should always think which value added you bring to a potential customer if you want to sell him the product, and maybe which problem you solve. So these are 2 very, very important things from the product side. So that's why I started with the product side. Also very important for the market exploitation and commercialization is knowing the customer needs. So this is basically looking at the customer in detail. So I think I quite like this citation from Peter F. Drucker, who says the customer rarely buys what the business thinks it's selling him. One reason for this is, of course, that nobody pays for a product. What is paid for is satisfactions. But nobody can make or supply satisfaction as such. At best, only the means of attaining them can be sold and delivered. So this basically just puts it in a nutshell what I said to you before. So sometimes we think, okay, you're selling something, a product, but it's really about the added value and the satisfaction. So I think it's very important for you to research the customer need. So to look at who could be a potential customer and which need he has. There are several methodologies as well of using this. Just to put you, there are basic sources of information. So there are primary, like you could do an internal expert survey, employee survey, sales team survey, or observations. There could also be secondary sources internally, like an order book, a cost calculation, sales team reporting, complaint management. So this will help you, analytics, online sources. This will help you to gather information about the customer. I know you're probably still in the earlier stage where I think it absolutely makes sense to talk as early as possible to potential customers in an interview, or if you have a minimal viable product, so not the finished product, but the first version of it, to basically show potential customers how it works. So this is also very good, and observe him using the product and get feedback very good. Also, you would have the chance to use external sources. So you could do customer surveys, trade surveys, supplier surveys, non-customer surveys, market tests, or relevant observations. This would be a primary source again, or you could obviously you could do a secondary source, which normally you start off with a external secondary source. You just look at publishing companies, database providers, standard information services. They say, okay, maybe from internet research, what do I actually think is the customer need, to try to work it out. Yes, so what's also important here is another point where I would like to tell you. So entrepreneurial teams should always be able to identify a core problem in their business product. So you should focus your product on a problem, on a problem you identified in the market. You shouldn't build a product and look for a problem. So this will be the wrong way around, because basically, especially in sometimes in the research, on the very technical minded people, they like perfecting a product, because they say, okay, I want to have it perfect before I talk to maybe potential customers. And from my experience, and I think also literature confirms that, it's often not the right approach to try to perfect your product in the lab or wherever, and then go out to potential customers and say, okay, who could be a potential customer? So I think it's much more interesting to in an early stage try to talk to potential customers, which you build on assumptions which you think would be potential customers, and yes, and talk to them and get their feedback to say, okay, this is actually a problem. Why is this important? This will give you the possibility to tailor your product to the customer needs. So you will basically have the chance in an early process, without having put all the cost and money in and making the product perfect, to go a step back. And maybe if you see, okay, all the customers I asked said it's essential that it's, I don't know, easy to use. So then you could focus also on saying, okay, I have this technology, I found this market niche where I want to place my product, but I should try to maybe make it as easy as possible to use, because this is the need the customer has. So sometimes also one of those examples, for example, could be, which you see in reality, is if there are many startups trying to make the office of doctors more efficient. So they say, okay, I really want to do that. I have a software and you can do this and this. There are applications where it makes sense, but if you look at what the doctor really needs, wants to do, he doesn't want to run his office more efficient. He just wants to treat more patients. So the wrong message to this doctor would be, okay, yeah, you can run your office more efficient with my software. It would be more, oh no, you save time per patient, because I don't know, they can already fill it out in the waiting room, and if you're there, you have it digitally, and you know who the patient is, and you have all the information ready. So this is very important to listen. What do the people really want to do? And especially in the early phase, this is quite difficult, to finding out who's the customer, and maybe also what's the customer need. And what I would recommend there, especially if you're still in the research phase, is making archetype customers. So you would think, who could be a potential customer? So how could a potential customer look like? You could also look on the internet. There's things like personas, which you can fill out. So you could say, okay, who could our target group be, depending on if you are a B2B company, so business to business, or business to customer, or maybe B2B to C, depending on which type you have to do several types of personas. And then you would say, okay, I think it's relevant for people, or let's say companies, which are in the manufacturing sector, who have a size between 50 and 250 employees, are family owned, etc., etc. So you would think, okay, for them maybe it's the biggest problem, because at the beginning It's all about, this is also what the technology roadmapping is about, finding the people who have the strongest need for my solution. So maybe somebody says the problem is so big and you have the technology and the product to solve it. So it would be ideal for you to find him. So even if that's again the example I said before, even if that's not the mass market you want to go into, maybe this is more a niche market, but where you can show that it works. And once you wrote down those personas, or you think those assumptions are true, you have to try to validate that. So you should go out, talk to potential customers. Is this really true? Is this really my target group I should be addressing? And try to generate the feedback, which is the first step. Also demonstrating to potential investors that you did some homework. So you try to validate if you really bring an added value to potential customers. This is quite good. And the next step, the next better step would even be to, if they say, okay, oh, this is interesting. If you develop the product, how you telling me you are, I would prepare to use it. Then you can put this down in a letter of interest or a letter of support, where you go to the company and they sign and say, okay, Timothy presented me the technology XYZ with his or his research results. I think it's a very good research, and I would like to hear more of it. If he actually develops a product he's going to commercialize, I would look at it at buying. So this would be a next, so validating the assumptions a little bit more. Although everybody knows in the space, a letter of intent is not, it's not a legal document. You could write it as a legal document, but usually it's not a legal document. But still, it shows you, well, you try to find the customers who have the willingness to pay for your product. The next step for an investor would be, from an investor view, so the next better step is somebody's actually using your technology or your product in the just using it. And that would be obviously showing, okay, there's somebody prepared to use it, and maybe also pay for it. And that would be even closer to a product market fit, because you would have identified one customer or two maybe who said, okay, I think it's a good technology, I'm going to pay some money for it and also use it. So this helps you also regarding showing that you found a small group of people who are prepared to pay for your solution. And then after that, obviously, after you found 2, 3, it's about showing that you maybe can scale it up, because the other companies, there are maybe other similar companies who have the same customer needs, where you bring the same added value. So this is something very important. And at the beginning, you should try to focus on 1 or 2 customer groups. You shouldn't, at the beginning, if you have a whole big market, it's not possible to go on the whole market. You should try to focus on the ones who has the strongest willingness to pay. So this was a little bit detour to the product and also the customer needs. And as we want to do the exploitation and commercialization today, I also want to tell you a little bit about market research, and then also go to the go-to-market or marketing and marketing strategy and marketing. Go-to-market strategies. So there are 2 ways, like I said before, basically of doing market research. You could do it quantitatively, or you could do it qualitatively. Quantitatively is basically you go somewhere and ask people from 1 to 5, how good do you think my solution is? I think this is very important. Maybe also a good way of doing this is thinking for what do you think are the main advantages of your product, what are the main disadvantages of your product, and letting potential customers rate this. So from 1 to 5, agree and totally I don't agree, or I totally agree. And then just looking, okay, maybe for this product feature, everybody said it's very important for them, and so you can cluster and learn a little bit of that. Another way of doing that would be qualitative unstructured data, in-depth analysis, which could, for example, be an interview where you ask questions and listen to people what they are saying. So this would be more, okay, how did you find using my technology or product? And he would just say from his experience how he found it, and this would be a qualitative analysis. How do you know what's the right market for you as an aspiring entrepreneur? To be honest with you, there's no clear answer. It's very difficult. So you as an aspiring entrepreneur can choose the market you want to go on first. So because you still don't know who potential customers would be, you try to figure it out. But as a rule of thumb, your company should choose the market so you can think you can successfully position yourself on the long-term basis on this market. So it shouldn't just be a 1-2 customers and then there's not an additional customer. There should be maybe more customers where you can also scale up. How does the market normally look like? So the market normally looks like a bell-shaped curve, which you can see here. So this is a model developed by Rogers and Moore, and it shows a little bit how innovations distribute the market, or how they go on the market. And what you can see here, so high growth startup ventures, you normally start off by trying to find those innovators. So to find innovative companies, there's a small amount of people, they are open for new products, and therefore they would help you to establish the new products in the market. So they would say, hey, great, I'm technology, I love technology, show me how it works. I'm open for new ideas, but this is only around 2.5% of the whole market. Then you usually have early adopters. So early adopters are people who also like technologies, and they say, okay, it's great, I also want to use it. I saw the innovators used it, so I also want to use it. And what this bell-shaped curve now shows, so this is more, it's still quite a niche market where you are. And in order to get on the mass market, there's quite a high chasm. So there's something like an entry barrier to the main market, which you have to, as a startup, as a high-tech startup, you really have to try to get over this, and in order to address the whole total market, to make it a business model also interesting for investors, etc. And this will require a substantial effort. And then you also have late majority and laggards. Laggards are people who they block out innovations, but at the end they might also use it. So this just shows you how the diffusion works. And obviously at the beginning, you would try to find those 2 customer groups to demonstrate to everybody else that it makes sense to use your product. In order to find your customers, I would recommend to do a market segmentation. Also, this is quite important for the marketing later on. So a market segmentation is dividing a market into distinct groups of buyers with different needs, characteristics, or behavior, who might require separate products or marketing mixes. What this basically means is that maybe there are companies or people which are similar, and you try to cluster them. Yeah, so you'd say, okay, all those companies have a similar need, those companies have a similar need, and sometimes you have to address them differently a little bit with just a tiny difference of the product or of the marketing. And you try to cluster them. And here are some examples how you could cluster people. So you could do it by demographic information, geographic information, or psychographics like social class, lifestyle, behavioral data, spending and consumption habits. And then you could try to say, okay, maybe the 15 years to 20 years old, I have to target differently and over different channels with a different product than the ones who use the product for 20 to 40 years, because maybe there's a difference in usage. And in order to find your market, once you have found who could be your potential customer, so you think you have an assumption to build it, you have to build the size of your market. So to show to people how big the market is you're going to approach. And mostly what you read in business plans is something like a top-down analysis, where you say, okay, the market for artificial intelligence in Germany is growing yearly by 15%. It's now at around 15 billion. And and will grow by 15% per year. In the year 2025, I want to have 3% of this market. This is good. This is showing it's a growth market. It shows it's a relevant market. It's a huge number, so it's also interesting for investors. But it's still a very broad market. So it's the market for artificial intelligence could be medicine, it could be everything. So you have to really try to narrow it down, and also do a top-down analysis and try to say, okay, how can I maybe find more information of what really the market is I'm addressing. My favorite approach, though, also in new tech ventures, is saying, okay, try to do a bottom-up planning as well. So maybe we are located in Stuttgart, which is Baden-Württemberg. Maybe I can find numbers for Baden-Württemberg for special for my customers. So I could say, okay, in Baden-Württemberg, I have around 500 potential customers. They have those and those characteristics. They usually pay around X euros per similar product they're using at the moment. And I think with my price, if I get those in Baden-Württemberg, and maybe you already have 3 or 4 customers up there, I think I could find quite quickly those other customers in Baden-Württemberg, and I can address South Germany, whole of Germany, Europe, worldwide, and then help to calculate it up. So build up on assumptions and really say, okay, who are you targeting first, and why would you think that the other ones would also follow, and why do they have similar characteristics? So I think this is a quite good approach for the bottom-up plan. Go-to-market strategy, like I said, once you have a product, you have identified the customer need, you maybe also have the market. You should try to build a go-to-market strategy. So how can you bring your research or your results, your technology to the market? And basically, I'll start with a definition here. So a go-to-market or go-to-market strategy is the plan of an organization utilizing the inside and outside resources to deliver their unique value proposition. So this is value proposition is something you promise, or you say this is the value added you bring to a potential customer, to customers, and achieve a competitive advantage. So this is something you have to do. You have to plan how can you get to the customers, and what is important for the go-to-market. So I think it's very important that it's crucial that the chosen market niche is big enough to start with. So it should not only be one person or one company. So maybe there are several companies with the same customer need. Ideally, you have access to that customer niche in the first place, and the niche, and by using this niche, you should have a competitive advantage to your company. So especially for research results, if you start exploiting and commercializing your research results or whatever, it's often quite near to first sell it to other universities. So maybe you do a product for lab testing, and then you can sell it to different universities. This would already show that there's a market and there are people paying for it, and this market is also big enough. And then, like I said, afterwards, maybe you'd scale it up and try to find in the outside of the university world other customers who would also be able to use it. But by selling it to universities, to the other universities, you're already showing that there's somebody there prepared to use it and think it's an interesting innovation to use. To give you a little bit of information of how to build up this go-to-market plan or this exploitation and commercialization plan. In principle, everybody who's in the audience today who had probably some marketing lectures at some point in their life, you probably will have heard of the marketing mix. And I think it's a very good tool of just defining what's the product, how can my product satisfy customer needs, place, where's the right place to sell my market, promotion, how can I communicate the benefits of my product, price, what about the product price. So here's those things where you said, okay, from the product perspective, you should define what's the product, what's the design of the product, maybe as well, what's the brand of the product, which value added does the product bring to the customer, the place, you should think, where can you sell your product? So is it direct sale? So you go to the customers, you present the idea, maybe you have a partner who sells your technology together with his, because it adds up together, so it makes sense. Sometimes it makes sense to sell it online. So especially if you at some point building up some kind of B2C product, maybe you can sell it online. So you should think, where's the place? Then promotion. So how can I communicate the benefits of my product? So what are the best channels to do that? So you should think, is it there's a difference between B2B, so business to business marketing, and business to customer marketing. because on the business-to-business side, it's more a rational decision. You have more players involved, so more people involved. You have a buyer center, so it's a little bit more complex. But it's always nice if you sell to companies, although there are less companies than people on the world. They don't just buy one product. If you sell something to them, they often buy many products. So it's quite interesting to also have this B2B approach, but also always keep in mind that on the business side, they are much more rational. So they have a budget. They have to see if it doesn't fit in the budget. If they just spent something a month ago on the competing solution, they won't change to your solution straight away. So this is why you always should have to analyze also the customer and also tell them why they should use your product, which value you bring, and also who you should try to figure out who actually makes the buying decision in the end. On the other hand side, in the business to customer side, if you're selling something direct to the customer, it's more that you do your advertising should be a little bit different. So it should be more it's more emotional story which you try to sell. And at the end, you obviously have to define your price. Defining the price actually is not that easy at the beginning because it's very difficult to find a price. What I would like to tell to you there, always try, even if it's maybe your first customer, always try to get some value added from this first customer. So even if you say, okay, this customer is so much worth to it, I just want to learn how he uses my product, and I would be prepared to offer the solution for free, basically, because it's a pilot case. Still put a price first. Still put a price on your product themselves. So say normally it would cost X% because you are the first person and it has a big benefit to me. I will give you a discount of 80, 90, or even 100%. And also to make sure if you try to get a pilot customer that you, for example, define that you say, okay, maybe I give you this 100% discount, but I want to use you as a reference case. So then you can build up trust, that there's some kind of trust. Somebody is using your product and he thought it was good to show to other customers. So always try to get something from the sale. And I think this is fair enough, because if you bring an added value to a potential customer, you should get something from it as well. Okay, I went through this regarding 15 minutes left, and I want to give you some time for questions also. This is actually, I think this is my last slide. My last slide. So after that, I only have the sources. So, and also what you should try to do in the exploitation and commercialization plan is track very from an early phase on how far in the sales decision is a potential customer. So there's a quite famous model, like you see from Elmo Lewis. It was developed in 1898, so it's over 100 years old. But I think it's still quite true, although there are some expanded versions for nowadays. But normally a customer has to go through a so-called sales funnel. So and you should always track where in the funnel is it maybe a potential customer, and where do you have touch points with this potential customer. So making an example. So if I haven't heard of your product, I can't buy it. So first of all, you have to get the attention of potential customers, and they should be made aware of the advertisement in the first step. So even if you advertise somewhere and I don't know it's there, I can't look at it, so I haven't got their attention. And once you have got the people attention, so you see this is still quite a big chunk of people, you have to get the people interested. So based on the advertisement or the flyer you sent to me, or maybe I saw you at a fair, I have to think, okay, this is interesting. I really want to learn more about the product and the idea. And so you would then let the advertisement, it would have some continuing effect on me, because I think, okay, I research the company or the research results. I'm going to read the paper because it's quite interesting. And once I have interest, obviously in the next step, you should try to get to the desire point where you say, okay, now he's interested, but now, okay, you want me that I would like to buy your product or use your product. So you have to put it to the desire phase. And as a last step, you actually want to do the action. So you want me to do the transaction. You often know, if you're in the e-commerce area, you put things, if you shop online, you put them in the checking out box, but you never go press the last button, because at some point you think, no, I'm not going to buy it afterwards. So the most important thing is actually then getting people to do the transaction. And so nowadays this model is a little bit expanded. But what you should try to do in the early phase is track who are the interested people. So who has maybe attention, who could you reach? So with social media and the internet, it's quite easy to see who clicked on your advertisement, who visited your website, how often did the people go to the website, who downloaded the product flyer, who wanted more information. And you should write this down at the beginning. Sometimes it's sufficient in an Excel point, but you should really try to see, okay, who's in which sales step, and maybe who should. So for example, if you have somebody in the desire phase, he wants the product, but then in the end he's not sure with the action, it makes sense for you to maybe contact him again, give him another advertisement, and say, okay, look, this is what it's all about. So I think this is it's also, if you read the startup, it's also called something like a sales funnel. So and the goal is to get as many people as possible from the action to the idea to the desire to the action phase. So this is basically, as it's like a funnel, you try to get people down at the bottom. Yeah. So that's the idea of this. So just one last point. So what we did today, we touched a few points. I think I talked now for around 45 minutes to 50 minutes, just to give you a small insight. So these were a few methodologies, a few ideas which you can use, what you should do, what you should track. To summarize, I would say, always look at potential customers, talk to potential customers as early as possible, try to integrate feedback. See which value added you bring actually to the customers, and then try from this learnings to build your exploitation and commercialization strategy based on the results you got by finding who would be a potential customers, and then build a strategy of maybe how best to use them and to find them, and which would be maybe the best channels also to reach those people. Yes. So that would be all from my side. So I have the sources. I think the presentation will be distributed later on. So feel free to look at it. If you have any questions, feel free to come back to me, or even Simona, or that's. And I would be happy if anybody has any questions. So I would be happy to answer them now.
Yes. In fact, all sessions are being recorded and will be uploaded into the EU Academy platform. So everything will be available.
Very good, perfect. So are there any questions from anybody? So you can happy to use the chat. Just say, okay, this is unclear, this was too fast. Can you explain a little bit more detail? You didn't touch this. Can you tell me something about that? So I would be happy to answer any questions you have now on.
I see one question. What is the main challenge for the projects in COVID time?
The main question in COVID time for projects. So there are several, obviously several aspects in COVID time for projects. So customers, if you're selling, for example, also trying to find potential customers, it's difficult because especially in the business to business area, they're obviously understandably quite reluctant to say, okay, I'm going to commit to big projects because they have so much things and do new stuff. So this is a little bit of an issue. Also meeting people, trade fairs. So for example, normally if you have a technology product, if you're on the medical space, there are some trade fairs. I know here from Germany where everybody, all the companies meet, where you could just go and ask potential customers, which is obviously very difficult. I think this networking, it works somehow over online. So there are ways of doing it, and I would try to do it online at the moment. but obviously it's a little bit difficult to find this. And so I would say on the one hand side, it's maybe difficult to find the right customers and test the products with them, and the projects get a little bit slower. Also, financing from venture capitalists sometimes is a little bit more, little bit more reluctant. Although I must say there's quite some money also for COVID projects which were delayed. So I know it from the German government or also from the European Union, where you can see and say, okay, maybe because you were a young startup in this time and you were going well before COVID, after COVID, you would be going good again. So there's also quite some support from the government and the European Union helping you out to bridge the gap to hopefully COVID is over. I would hope sometime next year. Yeah. So I hope this answers the question. So are there any further?
No, I don't see any other questions.
Okay. So yeah, I would say one last time. So if there are any questions after that, feel free to contact me. You have my contact details to just discuss other topics as well. So I would be happy to do that. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much, Timothy. It has been great. We will close here the session and go to the next session. Just for you that are connected and just in case, we are having some last minute changes in the agenda from the side of the officers from the Commission that are participating into the event and the national contact points. So the session now at 10 will integrate, in fact, 2 planned sessions. Let's say the explanations or the information to be provided by Walter van der Velde, who is the Deputy Head of Unit in Future and Emerging Technology in the European Commission, together with national contact points also in this area. We will have these 2 together from 10 to 11, 11:30. Then have the final presentation of PREFET roadmap and the final panel discussion with research experts. And then a formal closure by Raquel Fernández de Horcajada from the EIC, from the European Innovation Council, at 1 in the afternoon, from 1 to 1:30. Just for you that are here, you understand a little bit better. So we close it here now and we go to the next session. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for having me. Thank you. Bye-bye.